Okay, this is Monday, and thanks to the wonders of technology and Zoom, we're going all the way to Donegal to meet Pat McArt. And there's a surprise. How are you,
How
Pat?
are we doing, Jude?
I'm not so
It's
bad.
Monday afternoon and it's dark,
Sunny
and the
Monday.
first day of winter, I think, is coming in our direction.
Is it cold out there? I haven't been out yet.
No, it's not that cold, but it's dark and gloomy. It's the days of summer are behind us.
Yeah. Well, I don't mind. In a way, it's sort of cozy. I'm already counting the days until the nights get longer. I mean, the nights get shorter. You know,
Yeah,
what is it, December the 21st or something?
that's it. Yeah. So the days start getting longer after that again. Yeah. So
Okay.
there's always somebody looking forward to it.
Aye, yeah, need to these times. Okay, we're going to talk about the withdrawal bill and the Irish protocol therein, and how Boris Johnson has blithely announced, and Brandon Lewis, our beloved Secretary of State, has told us that, well, they're just going to ignore it, they're going to break it, because they sort of need it. What do you think about that?
No, I know, but no, sorry for cutting it, but no one thing. COVID has dominated every news forum, social media, print media, and other. And this thing about the withdrawal bill or the Irish protocol, or whatever you want to call it, it's just been slipped in there. And the Good Friday was the talk, and I remember when I was a young fella in my other life, I remember reading the Good Friday Agreement, and it was all about balance and equilibrium and treating parity of esteem. This is not parity of esteem. This has been slipped in, and basically, this is sort of what we say, a rock solid behind unionism. So where are the rights of nationalists? If they're sort of going to turn around now and sort of say, right, here, we're going to break an international agreement to keep unionists happy. What's the message that's spelling out for nationalists?
The thing is, just to get clear what this Irish protocol is, I just checked the wording of it there. The protocol says Northern Ireland will follow some EU custom rules, meaning that customs declarations for goods moving from Northern Ireland to Great Britain, as well as some new checks on goods coming from Great Britain into Northern Ireland after the transition period.
Yes.
So you can see the sense of that now, and that's what he agreed to.
Yeah.
Now, if they don't abide by that, I think we've talked about this, that goods coming from Britain to Northern Ireland could well seep into the south.
Yeah.
So the EU will have to have a border. And if the Brits are not going to have a border in the Irish Sea, as they said they do, we'll have to have a hard border in Ireland. And, well, I don't know, maybe this was wishful thinking. I know that Michelle O'Neill said about this notion of breaking this. She says it was a treacherous betrayal which would inflict irreversible harm on an all-Ireland economy and on the Good Friday Agreement. I think if it happens, it'll be so disruptive that a lot of, well, certainly I'd say all nationalists will say, we can't go on with this. And I'd say a fair number of unionists as well, certainly those who are trading across the border, will say the obvious logical thing to do is just get rid of the border and have all of Ireland in the EU. Yeah. Now, that's a sort of a bold statement.
Well, I think but you know what I think, I think there's a really bad intent, a malintent behind the British move. They know if they pull out this thing, the withdrawal thing, and break international agreement, for the integrity of the EU, they know that basically Brussels will have to insist on a hard border in the island of Ireland. Mm-hmm. So in other words, it's that cynical and that nasty. And I think because what they're doing is now, somebody has said, wait a minute, we're not going to put up a hard border, but we'll want a hard border, but we'll get somebody else to do it. So this is how we get it. Mm-hmm. So now suddenly it all says, it isn't the Brits that are putting up all the good nationalists will be saying, and whatever. It's not the Brits are putting up, it's the EU, the bad old EU. And that shifts the onus onto the EU. But as far as I can see, the EU will have no choice, because if you leave the back door open, Jude, look at it during the COVID thing. I know we're going to talk about it, but during the COVID thing, when you flew into Dublin, you had to, in the early stages of this COVID crisis, you had to self-isolate for 14 days. Mm-hmm. Fly into Belfast, come in, no 14 days, hire a motor car from whoever, drive into Donegal, Sligo, Leitrim, and on down. You can drive down as far as Cork or Kerry, and there's no 14 days. Now, when you close the front door and leave the back door open, all things can go. There was a simple example.
Well, I just think, Pat, that it'll be, if it was to happen, that the Brits decided they wouldn't have any checks really on goods coming from England. If they did that, and if there was, as a result, as you say, the EU would have to impose, or Ireland, in the name of the EU, the south of Ireland would have to impose a border. I think that'll be so catastrophic that it really will. I think it's so catastrophic it's not going to happen. I think the Brits are using it.
Jude, hold on, Jude. No, I will stop you there. Right. If they don't put on a border in Ireland, if after this, if there's no agreement on the 31st, by the 31st of December, whatever it is, right, what happens then? Does chlorinated chicken come in? Does Brazilian beef? Does anything that you can think of, flooding with cheap TVs, British second-hand cars, or whatever, I don't even know these things. But whatever it is that can flood into Europe through the back door of Ireland, like, what's to stop anybody of bringing in, Northern Ireland cattle, shipping them down to Rosslare and shipping them over to France or Spain or whatever? Like, in other words, there's no point in being the EU rules if they can be just broken willy-nilly.
I totally agree with you. If that happens, if there's no deal, and if you're in that situation, of course, there'll have to be a border, a hard border in Ireland. But I'm saying that, I think that this is a negotiating ploy on the part of the Brits. They're holding this over the head of the EU and saying, if you don't give us a good deal, there'll be a terrible bloody disaster, and you'll have to put up a border and you'll have to maintain it and so on, and there'll be all the security problems with it. I don't think I think they do. I do believe there's going to be a deal. So I think it's too awful to contemplate. But if that's what they choose to do, I would be very optimistic that you might have chaos, but you will have a united Ireland in, say, 5 years.
Well, yeah, that's what I think too. But but Jude, we have had a pretty long old conflict, and I'm now at an age I don't want any more conflict. I would like to see some sort of. But I think that if this stunt, put it like this, it's brinkmanship of a very dangerous way of doing things. And I think the EU might just sort of say, to hell with it. You can't make an agreement and then break it, about a couple of months later. Like, why would you trust anything the Brits say?
But I would think, well, not spend too long on this, but do you not think that the EU would be very keen on encouraging the integration of Ireland? That is, a border poll and a united Ireland. Would they not be keen on that? Because
they've already offered this.
That's right, automatic membership.
Automatic membership. Yeah. So I take it that's a clear indication of their preferred choice.
And I mean, just think about it internationally. You have, if it happened, whose fault is it? Quite clearly it's the British fault. By their own admission, they have broken an international agreement. The only way to salvation then, to avoid a hard border in Ireland, is through United Ireland. I would say you'd have an awful lot of sympathy from the States, from the EU, from people certainly in the North. And I would still say quite a few unionists who would say, look at the British. The irony of all this, Pat, we'll stop with it and talk about this now, is that back when Theresa, whatever her name is, May was in charge, they had a chance to have this deal of being in harmony with the EU for the entire UK. Yeah. This would never arisen. But who voted it down? Who helped to vote it down?
The DUP.
DUP. They have the best interests of everybody at the heart.
Of course they do, yes.
Okay. And I think it wasn't an accident either that the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland was the one who broke the news. We're going to break the law.
Oh, I don't think so.
There you go. Okay. Our second item for today is this question of level 5. Tell people what level 5 is, Pat.
Jude, I can only speak from within the 4 walls of this house. My wife is already almost in cabin fever about the thought of level 5. Level 5 means, Jude, nothing. No going out, no people coming in. If there's a funeral, I think it's at most 10. If it's a wedding, I think it's 6. And that's it. Basically, it's a lockdown. Now, they're already talking, there was a guy on the radio this morning, he said, if we go to level 5 in the Republic of Ireland, he says, almost forthwith, within, he says, there's 180 to 200,000 jobs gone. Jude, I know a hotel not too far from here, there's a couple of pubs not too far from here, and they're all closed. Now, I don't know how they're, any of them reopen. It's that serious. There's a lot of, and by the way, see, if we go to level 5, non-essential businesses like hardwares, garden shops, restaurants, retail shops, only the big shops that serve the public will be allowed to stay open, and there'll be very strict regulations. Now, Jude, the only thing I'm saying about level 5, this time, will they put the last time, because of 2 sets of guidelines between north and south, there was all sorts of loopholes and all the rest. If the government's serious about, and Derry, Donegal, Strabane, this is the epicenter of COVID on the island of Ireland. So somebody somewhere better sit down and say, we need an all-island strategy here, because there was a talk on Friday, I think, Jude. There was a guy on, I think, Highland Radio, who said he obviously must have been in a cafe, and he said he heard these guys ordering a bus for 20 young fellas to go to Derry for half-price booze session at some bar or some, So if you can get them out and break all the rules, don't wear masks, and if you're under rules here, but not in rules in Derry, and vice versa, because there are other ways, there are people doing it both ways. Jude, COVID's just going to keep going round in circles, round in circles, round in circles.
Yeah. Well, you see, they are going to keep the schools open, though. I wonder what your thoughts on that are, because I was thinking about this and saying, well, teachers will still be going to work, but nobody else will be going to work.
Yeah.
Now, what's the implications of that? Well, they're dealing with an awful lot of children. So the question I had to get clear in my mind then was, will children do they get infected? We're told that they do, but it's very mild. They don't even notice it. And the question is, do they then transfer that to adults? Because if a kid comes home from a class, it's been in the classroom with maybe 20 other kids, comes home, it's bringing any infection that might have existed in any of those other 19 homes.
Yeah. Well, Jude, I'll not mention it because it's a bit unfair, but I have been told certain school, it's a girls' school, one of the pupil there, that's how I'll be as careful as that, a pupil there got COVID, came home, father got it, went to a certain business premise that he either owned or ran, I'm not quite sure, and all the staff there have now got COVID. Now, I'm also told that there are several schools, I live in Inishowen, the northern part of Donegal, that there are several schools where COVID is pretty relevant or prevalent. And so, now, if the kids are passing it on to each other, then the teachers are obviously picking it up. There's one school, I think, that's got an issue and around maybe the Nobbaville area. So like, once the schools open, I think what the government is now saying, we're going to keep the schools open no matter what. It's we can't have kids sitting home for 6 and 8 months and so on. So it's got to help the teachers. That's what I know.
I have some sympathy with that. I mean, kids do have to be educated given the system set up. I would have debated about what they should be learning, but
hold on, Jude. You were a former teacher. Do you think you're expendable? If everybody else has been told stay at home, this is a very infectious disease, etc., etc., etc. How would you fancy being a teacher, a 45-year-old teacher sitting down in some school and saying, by the way, these kids, it's not affecting them, but it could actually affect me big time.
I like the idea of being 45, though.
Yeah.
But no, I do. From what I can gather, the great majority of primary school children don't transmit to adults. It's very rare. Secondary school kids or teenagers, I think the possibilities are rather higher, but not that high.
Yeah.
Certainly not until you get to the very end, like 17 or 18. So I don't think it's quite as simple as to say all those kids might have this virus. They could pass it straight to their teacher, or they could come home to their own homes and have it got it from another kid and bring it home and then kill granny. There was an appeal from, was it Preston Council, that appeal to teenagers, don't kill granny.
Yeah.
But I gather from the research now, most of the research, it's not final, but most of the research is saying that children don't transmit to adults. That is other ways that the adult will get this.
Yeah, Jude, I'm glad you put in that sort of disclaimer at the end there, because I was about to say, I keep going back, or keep referring back to the lady, and I wish I had written down her name, way at the start of all this. She said, She said these people who are coming on and saying about COVID, about it's going to, the pathologies, this or that. She says that is absolutely erroneous. She says because she says it's never been here before and we don't know.
That's it. And they're having different, different people are saying different things. Like obviously, Preston were under the impression that young people could bring the COVID home and kill their granny. But there are other people like this guy, a Frenchman who has done a study of a school in France, and he says that the younger age groups don't transmit to the same extent. And he's a bit more dubious about teenagers. So you're right, they're uncertain. But I think they do know more than they did the first time.
I accept that totally.
We can sort of take heart from that, I guess. But I have to confess, I said earlier on, I wouldn't mind the 45-year-old part when you were saying I was a 45-year-old teacher. But there's sometimes that I'm glad that I don't have people coming into my house. I mean,
absolutely.
Suppose I was 45 and suppose my kids were coming back from school.
Yeah.
You really would begin to get worried. Because there's all the responsibility. And you'd worry for the children too, It's all very well to say, oh, kids get it, but it doesn't bother them. But, there might be some cases where it would be.
Jude, the COVID is rampant in this area, this Derry, Donegal, Strabane area. We're double, I think, we're something, I'm open to corrections, something like 260, and the rest of the country is 140 or something. So we're not too far off being double.
Well, Pat, what's the answer? I mean, what would you do if you were in charge?
Well, Jude, put it like this, see the medical advice. We need a one island strategy. Absolute essential. This thing that somebody can, and they need to close off the airports. The same rule applies in Dublin as in Belfast. And, the pubs in Derry, you shouldn't be able to go, if a pub in Letterkenny is closed because of COVID, you shouldn't be able to drive 20 minutes up the road to Derry and get into a pub there and sit there. And who knows, the people coming from Letterkenny could be taking COVID across the border or reverse it the other way around. So we need a strategy. And forget about the politics. COVID doesn't orange or it doesn't green. It doesn't bloody well know whether you're blue or yellow. So drop this crap about this. It's not London. We live on the island of Ireland. So if I can get it in Donegal, you can get it in Derry, or you can get it in Belfast.
Although I totally agree with that. Totally agree. But that would still leave you with the same problem. You might have coordinated it better, but what would you do? Because it's this seesaw between lockdown and getting people back to work. And if you lock down, you're not having money coming in and businesses are going out of business. And if you open up, then a lot of people are getting COVID.
Jude, right. But hold on. Sorry, Jude. Right. My wife was in Derry. She had a family thing. Somebody had in the hospital, and she stopped off in a shop on the way back. And she said she went into the shop, and there was about 8 kids, teenagers, fellas and girls, walked into the shop. This is on the border, just inside the border in Derry. And she says, not one of them wore a mask. And that was yesterday. Now, Jude, if we were serious about this whole thing on the island of Ireland, right, you asked me what I would do. Social distancing should be enforced. People who don't wear a mask should be fined. You should not be allowed to get into a supermarket. No mask, no entry. There's no enforcement whatsoever. People are just doing one. And see all the conspiracy theories. See when it's all over. If they're right, great. But right now, the best we can get is you wear your mask, you socially distance, and you sort of wash your hands. Now, Jude, that's not, but no, Jude, I'd say at most, and I'm being very generous here, very conservative, 50% of people are doing that.
I agree, and that's my experience as well. From the few times I go out, I see exactly that. And in shops, they simply don't observe it. The people working there don't observe it. None of them were wearing masks the last shop I went into. And they would brush past you when they'd be meeting you in the aisle, So I really think I would agree with you. They really should enforce it. I think maybe it's appealing to the fascists in both of us, Pat. But,
no, it's not fascist. I don't want you today. I don't want my wife today. I don't want my kids today. I don't want my neighbours today. It's very simple. See when it's all over, they say masks were a waste of time. Grand. I'll live with that and say I made a mistake. But I'd rather err on the side of caution right now. Is that these people, you'd think some of them had just won a Nobel Prize for virology. Some of these guys who have never passed a science exam in their life, but they're coming out and saying they seem to. If you get on social media, you'll get experts. You people are sheep who wear masks.
Well, it's very hard. I think the authorities haven't made it mandatory because they're afraid that they mightn't be able to enforce it.
Yeah, I know that's exactly it.
But I would sort of take the line of as an old teacher, and I would impose, as you say, penalties of one kind or another. And I suppose penalties that you follow through on quickly, like fining people quite heavily too.
Yeah.
I think if you do that in a couple of cases that are well publicised, most of the other people will get the message.
They'll have the desired effect. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll leave COVID struggling with with the question of lockdown and the question of keeping people in jobs. Our third, and isn't it wonderful, we're coming to the subject of a baby. A big baby who reminds me of that song. What was that song the Beatles used to sing? Baby, you can drive my car.
Car, yeah.
We're speaking, of course, of President Trump, who got into his car or was driven around in his car. I suppose I wonder how many circuits he made of the hospital. Did he drive around the block or what?
I'm not sure, but apparently it was a short drive. But anyway, doctor, I think it's James Phillips, the guy's name. He's a physician, a senior physician at Walter Reed Hospital, has described it as insanity. He's saying basically everybody in that car, because by the way, it is hermetically sealed in the sense that it's designed to bomb attack, chemical attack, and whatever other attack you can think of. So these guys inside there, no matter what, apparently if somebody's got COVID in a medical setting, the doctors put on PPE, they put on their masks, they put on their gowns, and they do everything. Trump, who's got COVID, is sitting inside with 4 guys of the Secret Service. And what protection have they got from him? It's probably the worst possible setting inside a car like that, where there's no air getting in and all that. But you know, pardon the language, does he give a shit about these people? Not at all. It's all about the me when it comes to it. This is a great photo opportunity. Now, Jude, pardon this, but I am seriously convinced that this whole thing about Trump having COVID could be a total fake, because he's already sort of, coming across as the indestructible hero, the leader that they couldn't put down. After 2 days, a 74-year-old man is coming. Now, somebody said, can you get that many people to lie medically? Well, as I said to you last night, remember the fittest person ever to run for no, that was written by Donald Trump and signed by his doctor, so I don't know.
Well, I must say that group of doctors who came out, led by the president's own personal doctor, Sean Connery. The Irish are pathetic,
But by the way, the other one, that sentence or that statement was signed by 2 people, issued by Kayleigh McEnany, who's as press secretary, and signed off by Sean Connery. Jesus, the Irish are everywhere.
But they really did look. I mean, if it was an effort to try to present a brave face, they were so bad at it. I mean, they were so self-conscious. Why do you need 10 doctors out there?
Yeah.
It has to be Trump that said, send out everybody you can find. And then when they start talking about it, they say it in the most halting, confused way. And they're asked a question and they double back on it and they're afraid to say he had to use oxygen or used oxygen. Yeah. Why not just go out and say it? We used oxygen. We're looking after this guy. So some people think he's a lot worse than he is. You're saying you think he's a lot better than people say he is.
Well, okay, it could be. But Jude, so I've reached a stage. What is it? The New York Times fact checkers have said, or the Washington Post, that he's something like 22,500 so far. Like, this is a man that said America was picking up about 80% of the tab for NATO. They're picking up about 20% of the tab. This sort of thing. He just he screws someone off the top of his head, and the Americans believe. And I had a guy on the other day. Donald Trump is our leader. He's made America strong again, and the world respects us again. I was thinking, I know village idiots who are more respected than the president of America. So, So.
Yeah. Well, at the same time, it's tricky, because if he's doing what you're suggesting, if the whole thing's a sham, he's certainly succeeding in energizing some of his base. And if he comes up to that hospital today or tomorrow, and some of the doctors are talking about that,
they think he's going to get it today.
His base, And I heard
Of
a
course
thing
it
on
will.
the radio this morning saying that he has gone from, in some poll or another, for some region maybe, that he's gone from something like 10% behind to 15% in front. So
Yeah,
it could be that he would, maybe he has got a mild case of this COVID,
yeah,
but if he recovers and comes sailing out, I think that will boost his vote,
absolutely.
which would be
And
pretty damn great.
Jude, he was 10 points and heading south, no further down this day last week. He's now, in fact, I think I can't remember the name. O'Donoghue or something. The guy RT's. John O'Donoghue, I think is his name, the RT
Yeah,
correspondent in Washington, and he was on saying, I think the other day that he was 11 points at one stage behind Joe Biden. I
yeah.
bet you by Wednesday of this week he won't be 11 points behind Joe Biden.
Well, the question is whether that will follow through or not. Now, you see, it's a very risky strategy he's taking. Maybe he thought it was worth it because if he didn't do it, he would be in real trouble. But he's taken himself out of the campaign, and as everybody acknowledges, he's at his best with crowds. Now,
Yeah,
the hammer has come down on crowds. He's not going to be able to do crowds no matter what way he plays it.
yeah,
He won't be
yeah,
able to have those big open air things anymore. No
yeah.
way. So, in a way, he has removed the sharpest tool in his box
Yeah,
of tricks. So,
the,
it
the,
does
the,
seem
the,
to
the
be,
Trump cult.
so it could be just sort of self-defeating, really, if he has done this deliberately. I actually think he has got COVID.
Yeah,
Question
he
is how
probably has,
serious.
Jude. But you know, someone, isn't it ridiculous at this day? He sort of wait a minute. He goes into hospital for about 2 days. He does two videos, social media things. He gets out in the car and drives around his supporters. He's suddenly dominating, all these tax things and all the rest are suddenly forgotten about. And he's dominating the news cycle again. And you can almost imagine the Americans saying, you mightn't like that guy, but gee, look, you can't keep him down. You just go, oh, here we go again. The village idiot,
You're a bit hard, Pat. I think that most Americans look at that and say, this guy's a nut job. And I don't
Hey,
think.
excuse me, Dr. Collins. He's got a 40% guaranteed sort of home base voter.
I know, but I think there's
All right, he
I
needs maybe
think
the other 10.
I
Say
think
again.
I think they've dwindled a bit since the last time.
Oh, well, everybody said that the last time as well.
Well, I know, but I take consolation from that. That last time everybody thought, no problem, this bloody Egypt, look, he won't win. But I think everybody is looking back and saying, Jesus, remember what happened the last time? And that surely has to energize people who are against him. So, all right, he gets his own base energized, but I'm telling you now that the anti-Trump brigade will.
Jude, I'll leave you this because I know you're going to wrap up. But what does he have to do to shake that cult belief? No matter what he does, his taxes. He paid $780 or something in tax, in federal taxes. The average working man in America pays something like $12,000 in tax. He has, he's about 200 scandals since he started, and his base has remained rock solid. He's racist, he's sexist, he's misogynist, he's probably a sexual predator. He's done everything that you can think of, and yet nothing shifted.
But you see, I think, Pat, I think there's a lot of people, and maybe it's in all of us a little bit, that we all like to be able to sort of, identify with the guy who does all the bad things, because we all do bad things. And if you're this important man doing them shamelessly, then we don't feel quite so bad. But I think that there's a part of us that likes to handle. That's why dictators flourish. It's because people like handing over authority to a great leader, as they see it, and then let him run the thing. Democracy is so bloody unwieldy, and so.
Yeah, well, what does it? Churchill said it's the least worst form of government, democracy.
I would agree with that, but you see, it's kind of exciting if you've got a great man, as you see it, fighting against the odds. So I kind of understand them, but I'm just praying to God that they aren't in the majority, and I don't think they will be. I'll tell you the ideal thing. We leave you with this. It's a bad thing to say now, but you see the way that number of about 5, 6, 7, 8 people, senators, chief of staff, etc., all of them got COVID. I hate to say this, but if one of those was to die,
that would change the dynamics totally.
Trump would not be re-elected because they would simply say Trump did that. Everybody knows Trump had a big hand in the $212 220 people, 220,000 people who died. But you've got to make it, personal.
Personal.
And
Yeah.
that would be the most personal of
Yeah.
all. God, that's a very gloomy.
That's a gloomy thought. This
No
finish
laughs
up on.
today, Pat.
Yeah.
You know any jokes?
What's that? No,
You know
no,
any
not on a Monday afternoon, Jude.
jokes? Okay, Pat. I'll see ya.
Good luck,
Thanks
Jude.
very much.
Cheers.
Bye.